What is going on out there, everybody? Welcome back to the Prodigious Customs YouTube channel. I'm Jason Stoltz, and today we're working on yet another Celica. How about that? We're going to be ripping the head off of this here block. I'm going to call out what was difficult to pull it out while in the engine bay. Although, just remember, when you pull the whole block out, you're already halfway there. All your connections are off. A lot of your bolts and hardware are off and out of the way. There's really not that much more you have to take off to remove the head. With that said, let's get to yanking this head off of this block. First things first, we're gonna go ahead and get the valve cover ripped off, the spark plugs out, our alternator off, and a couple of the pulleys on this side of the block. So let's get into it. First thing to note, the 3 bolts along the backside here, especially these end 2, are going to require you to use a universal joint. The firewall is just hanging over just enough that you can't get a extension straight on there, so you have to use a universal joint. So let's keep rolling. Alrighty, so next thing's next is going to be this tensioner. This is a problem when you're working inside the car due to this big long bolt right here that goes through the timing chain cover. It goes so far in that when you try to take it off, it's going to come out and hit your frame rail. So you're going to have to loosen the motor mount and actually jack the motor up and get it passed up high enough that you can pull it out above the frame rail and between some AC lines. Outside of the car should be no problem. And that is a reason why you cannot get it completely out. You're gonna have to come up just enough to sneak it over the frame rail and put all your motor mounts under stress and all that BS. But it is doable. If you want to leave the motor in there, it is doable. The next problem is going to be this here stud. This stud causes the same problem. When you go to slide this timing chain cover off, the timing chain cover itself is going to run in the frame rail and won't be able to sneak past this bolt. So go ahead and either double nut this, or you can get a pair of vice grips on the shaft part of it and back it off. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and bite it as far back as you can to not mess up any threads. And it should just spin free out the way. If I can get my vice grips off, jeez. Okie dokie, Dr. Jones. Next, we're going to pull off this here water pump and the harmonic balancer. There is a specific puller for this balancer from Toyota, but any generic one will work. You can run down to your local hardware store and rent one and pull it off. Just first, remember to pull off your crank position sensor. You don't need to be damaging it on the way out. So let's get into doing that. Alrighty, now that we got the side of the block all stripped down, everything off of it, I'm really shocked how easy the balancer came off. It just by hand walked right off, so it tells me this motor's probably a little tired. Next, we're gonna go ahead and pull this timing chain cover off. I'm not 100% sure how easy it's gonna come off. I might go ahead and pull the chain tensioner out first, just because I know it's kind of a ratcheting deal and it might be easier to just slide it out, get it out of the way so I'm not fighting the guides or anything as it comes off. Let's go ahead and get this thing pulled off of here. Alrighty, next thing's next. We're gonna go ahead and pull this here pulley off of this. This will allow us to get our timing chain off of the head, out of the way. Not much, you don't want to ever force anything, just light, small, simple moves and it should come off. And like that. That's out of the way. Now we can get to pulling our cams off. Okie dokie. Next thing to make note of is the caps that go on your cams. They are labeled E1 through 5 and I1 through 5. So that's to label your exhaust and your intake, which goes where. That way you do not swap these things around to get them screwed up. They'll be riding different. I mean, obviously these cams have been in here a while. You don't want to change that. They have clearance themselves. They're happy where they're at. Don't mess with them. Put them exactly back where they belong. And they'll be happy. Let's get to tearing them out of here. Right on. Next, we're gonna go ahead and pull the manifold off, the exhaust manifold that is. These bolts are a royal pain to get out from inside of the car because they have cemented themselves in, they've gotten really hot, and they've kind of won themselves with the block. So now that it's out of the car, it's easier to get to. But don't worry, if you're doing it in the car, you can still pull the head off with this attached. Just know, you know, it's gonna kind of fight you on the way out, how you have to lift it out because there's not as much clearance. But you can do it, so don't worry about it if you can't get back to the bolts or you just don't want to smash your hands, and I don't blame you. It is possible to take it out of the car with it on, and now that it's out of the car, let's go ahead and just get it off of here. All right, and now we're gonna get into the fun stuff as to ripping this head off. So, first things first, you're gonna need yourself a 12-point, 12mm inverted socket. So that means it's gonna be a male socket that's gonna go down into these socket cap head studs. And all of the manuals I saw was trying to say that it's a 10mm. It is not. For the two heads I've pulled off, it is a 12mm 12-point. And the sequence to do it is you start in this corner and you just X out all the way out. And do it in stages. Don't take it all off at once. Just break them loose, and then pull the head off. So let's get into it. Okie dokie. The biggest issue with pulling this head off inside of the car and why it's so difficult is this one stinking 12mm bolt. It goes into the head and it keeps you from taking the head off without, you know, obviously you have to get the timing chain cover off to give yourself access to this because there's no way you could sneak a wrench in behind there. And even if you were to get it out, most likely it's gonna fall, find its way somewhere down in here, and you're gonna end up taking the timing chain cover off anyway. So, with that said, all because one 12mm bolt right here, you can't just pop the head off easily in the car. I think it's a lot easier. It's been a lot nicer to go ahead and pull this motor completely out of the car. And now we're at a place that we're ready to pop this head off. Just gingerly give it a little bit of a lift up off the block. Gonna break the seal. Remember, the head is aluminum, so you don't want to try to pry anything in there. Just give it a light upward pressure and it should come off. So I feel like I've broken the seal good enough. See if we can yank this bad girl off here. get a towel for it. Let's take a look under here. Wow. All right, you gotta check this out. Come take a look. Alrighty, you can see there is some serious buildup on all of these valves. No wonder they're not sealing. They clearly have had an issue for a while, burning lots of oil, and that causes your valve seats to suck. So let's go ahead and take a look at the block as well. Block actually looks really, really good. Alrighty, so it is that simple to go ahead and pull the head off of the car, outside of the car. I feel like it was a lot easier, a lot less stressful, really, and it's gonna go back together better. I have access to all of the water pump, tensioner, everything can go back on before putting it back in. I'll clearly be able to see my timing marks and to set the chain properly before it goes back in. It's a lot easier, a lot nicer of a job, and it was really fun. I had a good time doing it. Well, if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate a big thumbs up, and if you have any questions, let's talk about it in the comments. I am so thankful you watched this video. Thank you very much. Really, honestly, it's awesome that I could be doing this and putting it out there and getting feedback. So hit me up in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And until next time, have a great freaking day.